Well, hello. Part two, figuring out the valuation of a property, how to prepare for a listing appointment. So seller's going to want to know, this is going to be super useful on the buy side too. But today I asked, or last time I asked, it'd be useful if we run through how we do a CMA, how to evaluate the property and talk about market pricing. And I'm just going to do that live. Somebody in the audience, in class, please submit an address for a property that you want to know the value of in the Monmouth County, Ocean Monmouth MLS. Throw me a random property. Who's writing an offer? Lauren, do you have the crickets sound? Oh, here we go.
I don't, but I put in an address for you to come in.
I'm trying to save me
Yes.
outside of Flex. Anybody else?
I put a street address, but I don't know if you want to use it.
What's up, Jill? Yo, you're late to class. Hey,
What's going on?
can you give me an address that I should do evaluation on?
An address to do an evaluation on, just a general I don't know for what.
All right, forget it. Never mind.
Sorry.
I'm
Gil.
prepared for this.
You want to do an evaluation on my new listing?
Yeah, you got it
Oh, but
signed
it's not
already?
in the area. It's in Garden State MLS.
We need Flex MLS.
Okay. All right. So here's this is the other part that I was going to do part two. I'm just going to reverse it. So I keep saying to everybody, especially on as you're, hey, you want to become a market expert. If you're new and you want to be valuable, we talked about the hub of value. You need to know what's up with the market as you go. So the way to do that is you log into your MLS, and you guys can see my screen right now. What I do when I grab a coffee or a seltzer or whatever time of day it is, I grab that beverage, hang out, and I just look at this thing, and I take its pulse every single day when I'm really trying to do this. Jim Cramer looks at the stock market ticker, they look at the futures, they wake up in the morning, and that's what they do. They have a sip of coffee and they look at this data. I'm going to start at I go on the bottom right for context here. And if you look at sold days on market, we've got 25 days on market as a year ago. And right now, in August, we were at 21.2 days on market. That means properties are selling 3 days faster in August than they were in September of last year. It's not technically apples to apples because August is different than September, but you can get an idea of the trend line. And what I'm noticing as I describe this graph is, hey, since May, properties have been selling in an average of 3 weeks on market throughout the entire MLS. And that hasn't happened since before the end of summer last year, right? And interest rates rose sometime in, when was that? That was early June-ish, right? We had a slight bump up there month over month, but it's maintained steady. It hasn't fluctuated or gone crazy. It's heated up since February, right? I would look at this and know this trend inside and out. Hey, I don't want to list my house in the fall because it's a really bad time to list on market. Well, the average days on market, if you know this historically, and this is what you would get from the team or whatever, the days on market was like 45 in 2019. So we're at 35 as of New Year's, right? Over the holidays and New Year's, it's a couple more days on market, but it's still historically low at 35 days on market. So the market is still kind of churning along. Now, MLS links, I never look at all this stuff, or I don't really, right? I do look at over on the hot sheet. I have a setting here, 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever, within 1 week. I try to look at it frequently. So I'll look at 24 in the last 24 hours, 111 new listings. Just for the sake of argument, if I'm going on an appointment, I'd say I'd want to be like, hey, there's actually 111 properties this week. All right, that averages out to almost exactly that every day for a week. 777 would be 7 times 7, 111, right? So almost 1,000 new properties every week. If you're rounding up, right? It's really 77% of that. But I'm gonna start to understand and know these numbers. And if you look at this every day, you'll notice a change. We just noticed one new live listing since we've been speaking here. I wonder what it is. But if you are looking at the numbers and you see 200 on a certain day or 50 on a certain day, you're going to start to pick up on these changes in inventory. Canceled, closed, expired, pending, under contract. Another thing that I do is, hey, if something is going under contract, it changes from active to under contract, closed, and pending. If you add these numbers up, that's properties that are going off the market as opposed to coming on the market. So if we do that math of, there's a little bit, pending and active under contract are essentially the same. I still don't know the difference. I don't think it matters. But anyway, 113 versus 112. There's one more property being sold in the last 24 hours than there is coming onto market. It's almost balanced in one day. Let's zoom out to 1 week. Look at 773 new listings versus 730 and 60. It's essentially balanced. There's 143 expired though, as I'm talking, right? 143 on top of that. There's a few more properties coming off the market than going on the market. Supply and demand. Temporary off market, take it off. Back on market, 108. Like if you just look at these numbers, this isn't an exact science, but have a temperature. If they start to get really lopsided, if there's 300 new listings and only 100 go under contract, you can start to see a buildup of inventory over time. And that all adds up to, how many days on market things are there and how many days of inventory we have and things like that. If I go to quick search, if I look at pending and under contract, I'm going to say that's roughly 800 properties are getting sold a day, right? Or sorry, sold a week. And if I go to active in our MLS, if I just look at view map, holy shit, it's a lot of green dots. It's 3,455 active properties right now. So when you go on an appointment and say, oh, there's no inventory, you could, if you know that number off the top of your head, hey, actually, as of this morning, there's 3,455 properties available in Ocean and Monmouth County, our MLS alone. This is where, going back to last week where I said there's thousands of properties, you only have to get one to go from 0 to 1. This expands people's scope of awareness in terms of looking at the whole market and all the data instead of their little section of town, which, to be fair, ultimately does matter the most, because there's not any one property in the 3-block radius I'm trying to look at a house at, but it does help have the conversation. So if I go to one of these new listings, I'm going to go back to the hot sheet. I'm going to look at, sorry, if you go back home, click up here, you get back to new listing 24 hours. I'm going to go look at 24 hours. All right, I got my cup of coffee. 921 to 922. Since I looked at this last, I'm going to sort by price, descending. All right. And now I'm just going to, I usually switch to photos and then I use my arrows keys and I can go up and down and I just scroll down and find out what's up. Cool. $6 million house, $5 million house. Awesome. I'm going to, so I'm just looking at what's going on. What's happening here? Oh, something in Manasquan, downtown Manasquan is for sale. $2 million. Looks like a giant piece of property with some land, right? I'm going to start looking at all these and just see what's new. If I've got buyers in these towns, I should be aware of what they're looking for. And I'm searching for new inventory for my active buyers. This is right down the road from me in Point Pleasant. I watched that condo association, right? This looks like, right? I'm going to scroll through. And if I know my buyers have a budget, since this is sorted by price, tallest to smallest, I call it, I'm going to be looking at what's in their price point. And maybe it's not in the town that they originally said, but they said they wanted to be in Tinton Falls, but this $725,000 house, they just got beat on an $800,000 offer. I see a 725 that looks kind of their style a couple towns over. hey, hey, I thought I'm gonna give them, that's an excuse to make a contact. Right? I have to remind myself that we're focused on trying to think about listings and evaluation property. Hey, what's a fair offer on this property? I'm gonna say, hey, what's up with what's coming on? Where are things getting priced at? And eventually before the comps, I'm going to try to figure out what the hottest properties are. So somebody who wants some coaching or advice that's more tailored to you, raise your hand or throw in the chat or turn your mic off. Tell me a zip code or one of these towns, like pick out one of these properties that I can pick on that you might get a phone call from Flex or UpCity right now. Like, does anybody have a buyer for, I can go to the map view or whatever, but we're trying to pick out a live property that I would like prep for and figure out the value. And we can use this as if it's a listing appointment too. I'll look at the map so you can see them all. Somebody give me a zip code that you're getting a lot of phone calls or that you would be active in. Where should I go? Something.
Freehold.
Freehold. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Let's go to Freehold. All right. If I'm waiting for contacts or I'm going to get a phone call in Freehold, I'm going to look at all these ones right on my map and I'm going to say, cool, this looks like a condo for 400, sweet. 325. Sarah, was that you that I heard? Was that your voice?
Yeah, it was me. Hi, Gil. How are you?
Hey, which one of these do you think would sell the fastest in right now? Like, which one is the most likely to get somebody to click on it from Zillow or Realtor.com? Can you see, or is it
I don't see.
possible to just see? Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
I can't draw a circle on it right now. Where's my little drawings? Whoops. Actions for selected listings. Hang on a second. Oh no. I think because I'm in the hot sheet, it's not letting me do what I want to do.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, no, I want my hand. And now it won't let me zoom. Hang on. Hang on. I think this one looks okay. $680,000, 690, new listing, 0 days on market, 4-bedroom house, looks cool. I'm gonna review this and I'm gonna get to know this house and know the inventory. Looks a little outdated, kind of brown, but it's got a sick yard and pool, 2-car garage. Painted gray, paint the outside, it looks a little more modern, it's a lot of space. If I want to imagine who the buyer is going to be, if I have my pulse on this, that's cool. Now, if I was going to somebody's going to say, hey, is this a fair price for this property? I'm going to try to run comps on it. So I'm going to go to the property. I want to know what I'm looking at. I should look at the lot because a lot of the value's in the land. If I'm comparing a house that's a 50 by 100 lot and this is 130 by 200, or, this is a little over half an acre and I'm looking at something that's like way a tenth of an acre, that's a factor and you've got to add or decrease from these things. But I'm looking for a 4-bed, 2.5 bath with a pool, looks in good shape, but it's a little outdated, right? Taxes are 10 grand and freehold. This is what I got so far. I don't see anything super weird in the notes.
Is it septic or is it public sewer?
I'm going to do Command F and try.
Believe it or not, my clients are usually coming from either Central Jersey or North Jersey. Once they hear septic system, they're turned off immediately.
Well, that's a scripting and conversation that we can, that'll be a separate issue to work around instead of them never buying a septic house. If you got super educated on septic stuff and were able to explain that it was just rehauled and you wouldn't have to think about it for 30 years and all that kind of stuff, you could be able to have people buy and enjoy houses with septic systems. It becomes a touch point because people are worried about the cost if they buy it, if there's a problem with it, the same way an underground oil tank can be an issue. But there's scripts and dialogue around all that, but we'll get to, we're trying to get to focusing on a CMA is what I'm trying to meander to.
Sorry.
No worries. That I'm flagging myself more, trying to keep myself focused. So let's go to the map. And this is what I wanted to see before, is this little circle dial. What I'm trying to do is identify the neighborhood of this property. And if I was coming to this house to just list it or go on an appointment, I'm going to immediately look out at the main county roads and try to determine just from looking at the map what the comparable neighborhood is. Now, I don't know if there's some crazy difference between Iron Ridge Road and Still Sewell's Corner Road. I've never been here before, right? Elton Adelphia Road. I've never driven on that road. I don't know what Woodgate Park is. Do people do heroin there? Is there a crack den and strippers and prostitutes? Or is this where all the kids go and play and it's a really wholesome place? I have no idea. And it doesn't really matter for this. But I'm going to try to figure that kind of stuff out. Not to that extreme comical example that I'm using, but I'm looking at this little water line here. And then I might go back and see if this is in a flood zone.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that it is?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. All right. So if I don't really know the area, or if I really don't know the area is what I should say, I'm going to do a circle right on the property. I click on that little circle, I clip on it, and then I want to go a half mile or a quarter mile. If I need more properties, I go wider. If I get 100 results, I want to narrow it down a little bit, and I want to get the most comparable properties. I'm trying to not go on the other side of these major county roads, right? I don't want to go over Monmouth Road, or those are probably different zones. So I'm going to try to keep it within here, and lo and behold, that hits a half a mile square on the head. Whoops. Click on that to set your radius. And now the way to think about this is I'm casting a net to see what's out there. I've cast my wide net. I'm going to take off this X. This is exclusive of that property. And I'm going to click that off, because now the criteria that it's pulling through all the data is within that circle. But I'm not telling it what type of, there's 664 results. So now I'm going to, that's way too much. So now I'm going to go add a field, and I'm going to do status. And I click status. And now I get this little, it adds in this, it inserts this little menu, and I'm going to do command. So I can select multiple, status active, coming soon, pending, active, under contract, closed. I'll even do expired, right? I want to get most of these, maybe all of them. I usually don't do temporary off market because there's very few of them. Now it's going to give me the dates. 9/22 to 21. So I'm a half a mile within a year in that circle. And that brought me down to 32 results. Right. So in that half a mile, that's a pretty good number. I don't want to go into a quarter mile. I want something around 30 results. I'm going to have a look at it, see what I got. If I need to tweak my search, I will. But right now I got 32 properties to have a look at. Now I'm going to do price, sort descending. I'm going to put the biggest fish on the left and the smallest little minnow on the right. And now I'm going to look down and see what is in the sea in 1 year and a half mile of that property. What happened? First thing I'm going to do is look at the map. I know that my property that I picked is dead center of the circle, even if I take off active. I'm going to look at this, and I'm actually going to do this live. Sarah, I'm going to imagine that you're the client, you're the owner of the property, and I just rolled up on a blind listing appointment. Say, hey, Sarah, thanks for having me here. Look, I know that you said you have 15 minutes and you just want to know what your property's worth. I know that's most important to you. So this is what I did. I prepped this, and I just want to go through how this process is. My style of doing business is I try to be as transparent as possible, and I want to educate the consumer as much as I can. So I'm actually just going to go through the process the same way that I do when I'm evaluating a property for something that I'm considering writing an offer on, or for when we're representing the buy side for someone on our team. We see what's fair market value and where the market is for the property. Does that make sense?
Show me what you got.
Cool. So what I did was I'm going to clip my search criteria here. I drew this circle a half mile outside of your house, outside of the property. And then I put, you see over here, the status, active, coming soon, pending. These are all the different possible statuses of the property to see where they are in the stage of the properties, of the sales cycle. And I did this within the past year. So anything that happened in the middle of COVID or pre-COVID is not going to be included in this. This is really just the relevant data. We'll get an idea of about the fall and holiday season market from last year. And we'll also see throughout the more recent time, in the past couple months. Does that make sense? Cool.
Sounds good.
When I do that, I get 32 results. And when I look at them on the map, the blue ones are properties that actually closed. Those are properties that sold. We are, once that happens, that's publicly available data that we can understand what we know what the purchase price of the house was, what it actually closed for. And we can see what the listing was, how it was presented, and all the facts and features of the property. The yellow ones are ones that are under contract right now. These are properties that haven't closed, but their listing price and the way they were marketed was attractive enough to get a buyer under contract. And they're at whatever stage they are in the process. From those, we're not going to know the exact purchase price yet, because even if you're friendly with the other realtors in the area, which we often are, you're still pretty tight-lipped. It's a matter of fiduciary duty to the clients. I'm sure you wouldn't want me, once we get a contract on this property, see, I'm future pacing. Once we get a contract and an awesome offer on your property, I'm going to show you the same respect. It's just something that we really don't have the data on where it's going to close, because everybody's tight-lipped about that, as I'm sure you can understand, and would want that for your property. But we do know that that price was attractive enough to get a contract, and we can get some ideas about how many days on market that was, and we can look at the history of that property to see if they had to do any price adjustments, and what types of properties they were, and what the consumers are actually looking for right now. The green ones are, if your property was going live today, this would be your active competition. So from our marketing plan and exposure with our partnership with Zillow and Realtor.com, if somebody clicks on one of those buttons, they have these properties to pick from within this half-mile radius. So this would be your active competition if the property were live today. And that's who we're going to be watching to see what happens with those properties throughout the course of between now and the date that your property actually goes live. You had expressed to me that, you guys want to do one more holiday in this house, and you're planning to list in the spring, which is totally fine. So these will be the ones that will be the active under contract or closed, and we'll have updated data right before we go live. But this is where the market is today. The red one is expired. That's a property that, for whatever reason, did not sell at all and fell off the market. And we can try to see if we find out why. So the next step is then I'm going to look at the list. I look at price and I sort by descending. And now we're going to go is like a totem pole from most expensive property to the least expensive property. And now I'm just going to do a quick glance and look down at what was the most expensive home that was either listed or sold in this half-mile radius is 115 Columbia. I don't know if you saw this one. Yes, I saw this one or didn't, whatever. At 1.15, that's what this house sold for. I'm going to scroll through the photos real quick and see this, this beautiful wallpaper, this home theater. They've got a pool. It's a big house. That's awesome. Here's another brick-faced knockout KHAV development, whatever. I'm sort of going off script here, but this beautiful, probably 4 or 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, beautiful landscaping, awesome pool, 10% over $1 million. It's active right now. I wonder how many days on market. Maybe we'll come back to that one. This one sold just under $1 million, or it's under contract, and the listing price was just under $1 million. Sort of comparable. The other one has a brick face, but this is a little more modern and a little more, if somebody was building or flipping a house, they might go with this gray tone scale and it's move-in ready. right? Also has a pool, basement space. I'm gonna start to look through it. Now I'm gonna look at around the $900,000 price point. I'm gonna see what's at each level of pricing and kind of compare in between, right? Also, you're getting a pool for $800,000 or $775. In this property, I'll just describe what I'm seeing. Ideally, I've studied this before and I can do this a little more efficiently, but it is possible. I have definitely done this where it's like you're kind of describing it in real time. Look at this awesome aquarium next to it. This is under $900,000 in this neighborhood. Pretty updated, move-in ready. Let's look at the next major price point, $750,000. Okay, we still have a pool, beautiful pavers, 2-car garage, right? I don't know about you, but I think we could do a better job on the media here. It looks like an agent may have taken cell phone photos here. I see I'm differentiating our media plan versus whatever's here. It's kind of hard to tell what's in this property. Wouldn't you agree? Even if
Yes,
the other one wasn't as nice, the media, you can see how media really makes a difference in the property,
yes.
right? Wow, this one's really updated. Okay, let's go down to 700 and see what that is. And if you notice any big gaps, sometimes you'll see properties at like 850 to $1 million. And then you won't see anything in the 7s or 6s, and then a bunch of houses at 450, 550, right? There's this weird gap in the 750 range. This neighborhood looks like it has like a pretty even continuum down there, but a lot of times it's almost easier to value the property when they're like very disparate. You can be like, yo, you could try at 750, but there's no buyers there. Or it's kind of an anomaly there. And if the gap is a little tighter, you can have a conversation where, hey, we want to position ourselves so that the most people are seeing it and they'll see all the awesome stuff that your house has. Obviously you have a pool and the other ones don't. But they won't even see it if you try to compete with the $1 million properties. You want to kind of get the exposure and let people reach up and let the market determine where you're at in terms of your price from there. I'm sort of jumping ahead. I'll go through this totem pole. Let's see what's at the 650 range. This property closed at 650. Again, 2-car garage. We see very green carpet here. A 1985 or 1990s kitchen with drop ceiling, right? So at the 650 price point, we're probably doing some updating here. Wouldn't you agree? Right?
Yeah.
But this house looks a little smaller. Here's those older countertops that were put in 1994 or whatever that is. Right? And that's pending at 650, just like this one was. Right? And you're starting to see where things fall. Let's look at what 600 looks like. This closed at 600. This looks like painted cabinets, but you got a granite countertop. Looks like maybe a little bit smaller bedrooms. Right. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the barrel here, or, low man on the totem pole. We don't have anything that sold for under 450 in this development. This is a little more contemporary, pretty dated. You're doing $100,000 worth of work in this house if you want to bring it up to standard, right? They marketed this with the pool closed. I might not say that out loud if I'm on a listing appointment in the first day of fall, right? But it is, there's an awareness here, right? You want to play your cards. This house looks kind of sick. 500 grand, sick house. So anyway, now I'm going to look at the subject property and say, let's imagine this was an old listing. I forget which one we picked on. It was in the 7s, right?
Yes. This one. Yep.
This one.
689. Yep. Yep.
So imagine this is a lot of times if you look at a property on a listing appointment, the old listing will be there. And before you go to the house, you can see the interior and the basic photos. And then you can walk into the house and be like, they clearly changed the kitchen, or they clearly did not. Right? If the same posters and pictures, if the same shag brown carpet is on the floor when you walk in and it smells like cigarettes in a bowling alley, right? And the house sold 20 years ago and the same carpets in the living room, you know what you're walking into and that they didn't do any updating. If you walk in and the house feels transformed, now you got some finagling to do and you got to like adjust in your mind where they're at. And you should know what these other properties are. So as I go through here, if I'm preparing for the listing appointment and not doing it live, I know that these houses are not comps. And if I show this house to the lady, they're gonna be like, you have no idea what the hell you're looking at in this market. They're not the same. This one, debatable, right? Like this one might be worth hanging on to. So I'm gonna click on that one. This one is not really a comp, right? It's just a different style house. This one's kind of similar. And you're going pretty coarsely, like a pretty rough estimate. I do want to get the active ones. I'm going to get active and pending. Even though they're totally different houses, I'm going to say this is your competition. 1.1 million, totally different house. I'll be prepared to say that, but it is on the market within a half market, so I'm including it. If to make sure that I get them all, I'll sort by status. It doesn't matter ascending or descending for status. I do probably want to catch especially if there's a comp that fell off the market because it was overpriced. I want to catch that. This house looks like could be sort of similar, so I'm going to hang on to that. I'm also going to look for this to see if it came back on the market and actually ended up selling. So while I have that 16 Mulberry in my head, I'm going to look down the list and see if I see 16 Mulberry come on as a different listing. If I'm going too fast and somebody sees it, let me know.
It's not there.
Okay. In my head, I'm thinking that it probably might be somewhere and it might not be in my search. Maybe it was either side of the date. I don't know. I'm just aware that it's weird for a house that looks like that to not sell in the last 12 months. I just kind of know that. So maybe they just decide not to go. Anyway, I'm going to pick out the houses that are kind of similar to it. At least in rough style. I'm going to go back to price. Descending. $276 Ticonderoga. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the history. And this is obviously a fresh listing, but you don't have an old listing. If there is an old listing, it'll be a different MLS number right under here. And it'll say closed, what it closed for, and the date that it happened. And you'll kind of know their history. Another thing that I'm going to do, and ideally this gets printed and in a listing folder that you can like hold in your hand. I would print this, go to Realist tax records. Again, this is right on the top, Realist tax info. I'm going to go to property details. Ronald and Sharon Kranzler. We're dealing with a married couple or brother and sister, but probably a married couple, right? I'm going to look at what happened. I'm going to owner occupied. Yes, they're not investors. Flood zone, X. Lot and block, irrelevant. I'm going to look at assessment is pretty irrelevant. I'm going to look at the lot characteristics. This is a, decent piece of land, over a half an acre. If I walk into the living room and I'm spouting this information and it resonates with them, they're going to see that I'm very knowledgeable. Oh, there's a ton of land. Yeah, I saw that you're on a roughly 200 by almost 150 by 200 lot. You're well over a half an acre. They're gonna be like, wow, A, this person knows what they're talking about, and B, you're pumping up their property and making it sound awesome. You're also making yourself familiar when you go and run comps and the house looks identical, but the numbers are different. And then you look at this on the other property and you see a quarter acre, you're gonna be like, oh shit, this one has a way bigger yard. That adds value. Or vice versa. Estimated square feet, 2,200. AVM. Realtist or Realist or whatever this platform is, their data is saying, this is like their estimate. They're saying 560 to 760. That's $200,000. That's like a 30% swing, right? It's not super helpful. They're guessing, hey, we think it's 650 or 668 or 665 or whatever. It was listed at coming soon at 689. Right. I'm going to read all this stuff. I'm going to see, hey, it looks like these people bought it for $80,000. When did they buy it? In 1990. That's not right. Sale price 80 grand. Somebody bought it for 80 grand in 1981. These guys bought it and they took out a $150,000 mortgage in 1990. Maybe they did buy it. Yeah, they bought this house forever ago. 1981. So they took out it looks like they took out a loan, they refinanced and took out a $150,000 loan before the dot-com bubble, before the millennium, right? So these people are sitting on some equity. I'm gonna guess they're retiring. Right? You can start to piece together somebody's life story and picture here by understanding like there's gonna be some emotion tied up in this house. They probably, let's see if they raise some kids. If I was going, if I really wanted to get into it, I might Google these people. Managing partner, HKMP, right? I'm gonna see if this company is in New Jersey. Maybe it's the same one or not, you know? New York area, right? This guy's a managing
Thanks.
partner of a lawyer, right? If you start to get, I mean, the internet's a magical thing. You start to understand who these people are, and you might, I've looked at, like, when I started to toy with trying to do luxury stuff, I was Googling people, and you start to understand like how in things, family dynamics, you read, there's newspaper articles about people, understand what's up about people and figure out what you're looking for is not trying to be a creeper stalker. What you're trying to do is you're legit, if you have good integrity and intent, what you're really trying to do is prepare yourself to not be just some cold realtor trying to get a commission when you walk in the door. What you're trying to do is do this parasocial relationship building where you can do one-sided homework on another human being. And if you have integrity, you can do that in a way that's going to serve their needs and make you, they're going to feel that you understand more about their situation. Not that you want to like come across and tell them their life story, because then you're going to seem creepy. And you need to like blur the line of like voyeurism versus like finding out their situation so that you can best help them. Right. And if you do that, if you actually can do that, I mean, it's no secret that people can Google you, right? Somebody Googles me and they start talking to me, if they're into surfing and they start talking about that with me, they're going to build rapport.
Yes.
If somebody comes into my house, you might not see that I like surfing so much. Like you might not pick that up. It's not like all over my walls. But if they have a genuine connection there, I'm probably going to form a relationship with them. So that is a way of preparing. So in terms of valuation for the property, I'm going to do active under contract close. I'm going to flag whichever properties are, oh God, I'm on a different tab. I want to narrow this down from 32 to like 10. And if I am sussing out where I think it's gonna land, I'm gonna pick out what closed and looks sort of similar on either end of it. And I want to look for outliers. Like, is this house, is this at 650 and this is in this price band? This was in February. This is coming up on 3/4 of a year ago. I have to discount when this happened. But I'm gonna try to look at this property and be like, okay, this is kind of outdated. This is the one we said green carpets and I got to put 100 grand in.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to, if that assumption is correct, I'm going to go to 750 and see what I get. 760. Is this house updated?
Yes.
Do you see how this works?
Yeah.
Right? If I take $100,000 cash and put it into the green carpet house, I'm going to get this house. Or something closer to it. Or if I'm a buyer, I'm going to pay 750 to get an updated house with shitty photos. $725. I'm going to pay $75,000 more to get this. 2004 countertops and brown cabinets. Updated but old. Well, not in style. Lots of land, right? I'm going to know all these things. And then I'm also going to go to Zillow and see, they've looked at their house on Zillow and they found their estimate. So I'm going to do that little bit of homework too, since we're doing it live here. Where is this property? And I'm going to go in there with a loose expectation and kind of say, if I was these people, I'm going to go to selected. And now I can more succinctly go into the property and say, hey, this is what I did. 32 results came up. Now I'm kind of prepared for the listing appointment. I have some things to talk about. I know that the properties should be at about this price point. I would save this, save search as Ticonderoga, September 22. Right. Or, I'm looking at this. I'm also aware that if I pull this up in front of the client, there's a good chance they're going to see this. So I'll name the property. I might name it like their last name dot Ticonderoga. Like I'll try to make that so it's presentable, and I'll sometimes I'll even point it out, and I'll have like a whole bunch of them in there. I'll hit save. If you want, you can hit save and add subscription, because now this search criteria, if you're like really pursuing a sick listing and you are competing for it or whatever, you can like set the hot sheet to email you on changes in the property. So if this person's going to list in January, because that's just definitely what they're doing, you can set you're going to have your notes in your CRM. You're going to be following up with them. You're going to take your notes from your appointment in there and anything that you learned about rapport building and keep that on file. You're also going to keep up to date on this search by having the MLS email you any changes, so that one of these green turn to yellow, you're going to get an email. It's going to come from the search with the client name, and then you can update that in your CRM, and that is an excuse to follow up with them and call them and be like, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, hey, it's Gil, or hey, Sarah, it's Gil. I just wanted to let you know, I had my cup of coffee this morning. I saw that property that we spoke about went under contract. I would maybe call the agent first, and I would go to pending and look at one of these things. And I would, you can actually just call the agent and be like, I'm going to look at how many days on market this was, 37 days on market. I'm going to click on Kathy and call Kathy, who looks like Christy Brinkley at Wildfire Realty LLC, right? Okay, she's got she's in the 1990s too. I'm going to call her and be like, hey, Kathy, what's up? Congratulations, I just saw your property went pending. Hey, I'm working with another client and just looking for some insight. Where did that buyer come from? Like, can you give me an idea what it was? I know you can't tell me the exact number, but like, was it over, under, like by a mile? It was a little bit over. I was a little bit under. So I was on for like almost a month and a half. Was it, did you get close to asking price? Yes. Cool. Was it close over or close under? Like, I'm going to be playful about trying to be like, all right, tell me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more. And a lot of times they'll give you just enough information that you'll be like, awesome. Thank you so much. If I can ever repay the favor, let me know. Good doing business with you. Thanks, Kathy. Godspeed. And now I'm going to go to my client and say, hey, Sarah or Ron or whatever. Hey, I just spoke with my colleague on this property. I just want to give you a heads up, a little inside information. They're just a little bit under. That property didn't go guns blazing. It was on the market when we met. It was on the market for 3 days, but now it's been 45 days and they just went under contract. It's a little under ask. It's not crazy, but that kind of confirms about what we were, assessing about on price. Just wanted to keep you up to date on how all that's going as we prepare for your property to go live in the new year. How's the kids? How's the Giants game? How's, whatever you establish rapport on? Start the conversation. You continue your personal relationship. You provided them something valuable, a little bit of inside scoop that they didn't just see on Zillow when they went to the bathroom at 4 a.m, right? Because that's what's happening. You have something added on top of that, and then you keep your relationship going, and then you have the conversation with them, when it comes time to do it. It's going to be a natural conversation. They're going to be like, hey, we're ready, and they'll call you if you do it right. When you're having the conversation, I'm gonna have that saved in my save searches, which I believe I actually did hit save. So now if I do this the night before or whenever the appointment's set, now I'm prepared for the listing. I printed out the realist. I know the market pulse. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go and have this, and then I'm going to pull it up and save searches. When it comes time to talk about the CMA, it's right here on top. I'm going to click right on it. And then I'm going to be prepared to speak on this. I usually like to start this before I walk into the house. I'm going to pull it up so that it's a circle. And I'm ready to open up my laptop on this screen and say, here we go. Sarah, this is what I did. 1/2 mile radius, active under contract, blue is to do the color coding. Here's the totem pole that yielded 32 results. Now, I narrowed that down to 11. If we go through 32, I can see these ones at 1.1 million. That's not the same house. $400,000. That's definitely not you either. I narrowed it down to these 11 that are sort of similar in the ballpark that are worth discussing. I want to just show them to you and then review them with you really quickly. Ideally, I know something about each of these properties to have a little script when I go to 89 Double Creek at 925. This was on for 45 days on market. 273 Kings, this awesome blue 2-car garage, farmhouse style, whatever. I have a little script that's about that fast. This one just went pending. I spoke with the client 2 days ago, or sorry, the listing agent 2 days ago. This is the story. It's a little bit under, blah, 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 blah. I really sound like I know my shit. That's awesome. And based on all this, where do you think your property stacks up in the stack? And if you
Can
do
you
it
stay quiet?
yeah, then you shut up and let them say where they think it falls. Well, I think it's above Applegate and I think it's below what these should be sorted by price. Sorry. Hey, based on all this, where do you think your property falls in this stack? You're not asking what you think their house is worth. Hey, where do you think that is in the totem pole here? And let them, ideally, they're going to give you an idea. And if you don't, you'd say, well, it looks like, yeah, I know that your house has 4 bedrooms. This one has 5. I know that your pool is 20 years old. This one's brand new. And you're sort of using facts to just say like, well, these are features that this property has that yours doesn't. And these are features that your property does that these don't in a upside way. And you're going to kind of float yourself within a $50,000 to $100,000 price range. If you want to be safe, err on the side of, hey, the market's been really strong. We could definitely start on the upper end of this range if you're comfortable with that. That seems reasonable. You should know the property that proves the logical case that like, sorry, bro, you're not getting 975 for your house. Like, it's definitely not that. And it's been on the market for 60 days. That hasn't sold in 60 days. So your house is definitely not getting 975. We're talking about numbers with 8s in front of them. If you want to start at 899 or whatever, this how, you know, if you want to start at 699 instead of 7, that's fine. I'll take this listing at 699. I'll even do it at 725. I'm going to have the conversation that I think you're going to get the most traction at 699 though, because you're going to get these people that are looking and willing to put a little bit of money into a kitchen or do whatever kind of updating. If you are only looking for above that, they're going to be expecting brand new pavers around the pool or whatever the feature is that proves the point. You're getting them into a band and you're understanding where the value is in a range, engaging their personality style and vibe plus your rapport. Agree to the listing to attempting at a higher price point, make your case for the algorithm searching up to a certain point, get the paperwork done and be on your way. Cool. So we're agreed on price. Let's talk about the date and getting the media so we can get all the segue right into the next thing. I've already rambled for nearly an hour and I haven't even had coffee. Who's got questions? Or what did I miss?
I have a comment. I really, really like what you did. You basically showed them whatever is in their price range and whatever is above. So if they're not logical, they know to come back to earth, because if they're gonna go above the price that their home is worth, the buyers will have expectation too, because what we look at, also the buyer's agent is looking at as well.
Oh, for sure. Any other questions?
Hi, Gil. I have a question.
Hit me.
So I'm working with someone. I'm trying to list their house, but they want to go like way over value, and they're unwilling to listen to what I have to say. Like, I don't know how I should handle that.
Are they just want to list their property? They want to sell it?
Yeah, he wants to sell and he wants to list it at 750, but the house isn't worth more than maybe 550.
Okay. So if you need to try to figure out, is this person need or want to actually sell their house, or are they trying to win the lottery?
He's an investor and he's flipping it. And he didn't put that much into it that he should be expecting that price. He
Awesome.
thinks that if he lists at that price, it'll get people in the door. I'm like, no, that deters them from coming in.
Okay. Investors know everything. So just understand that they're the smartest people in the world. So they're usually not dumb, but sometimes, they think they know everything, I'm trying to say,
Mhm.
by and large. The really good ones actually do know way more than the average Joe and me or whatever, anyway, my point, if I'm having that conversation with you and you're like, I want this number and do whatever. This guy's an investor. He's not living in the house. He wants to sell it. It sounds like he wants to sell it. I don't know when he bought it, but he put a little bit of money into it. And he's trying to get as much as he can out of it because he worked his ass off and he paid overpriced for all the materials and everything that's going on. Make yourself an expert put yourself in their shoes. Material costs are high. Labor costs is going up. Supply chains, headaches, permits, all the crap that investors have to deal with to try to flip a property, and the margins are getting compressed. Be like, hey, you want to try 770? Hey, this is Cass. I understand that your asking price is 770. And oh man, if you got that, that would be amazing. And here's why. Because what the market is showing is that this house, the market is probably more like 550 for this property. I hope you're making a profit at that number. But my job, I'm a fiduciary to you. My job is to help you make as much money as possible and make good financial decisions. I'm willing to try it. If you want to list the property and you insist on marketing at 770 and you really, hey, you're smart, you're the one flipping houses. Maybe you know something I don't about this. Let's try it. What do you think would be a reasonable next step, or after how much, if the average days on market in the market is 35, because I check that every day, right? If it's 35.1 days on market, on day 36 or 37, what day do you think would be a reasonable time to adjust the price and reevaluate the scenario here?
Am I supposed to answer?
Yeah, I'm role playing. Like, imagine you're the guy.
So maybe about after 40 days.
Cool. So after 40 days, if it doesn't sell at 770, will you take my recommendation on where I think the price is and maybe consider adjusting the price to that, or at least way closer to it? Would that be rational? Hey, Cass, at what point are you underwater on this property? At what point will you like just break even to, if you had to sell it today and you didn't lose a penny, what number would that be? Is that at 600 or 550 or 720? Like, maybe the guy spent way too much money. He's just trying to recoup his loss.
500.
500. Okay. So if you sell it at 550, even after all your fees and expenses, you're still going to make 50 grand. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Awesome. I want to see you make $250,000 on this. That would be amazing. Because then you can go buy another one and I can list that one too. Let's win together, right? But if it doesn't sell at 770, you're still making money at 650. Is that correct? And you said you're still making money at 599, right? If you want, it's my job to be transparent. I don't want to be in a position where I'm going to oversell you the moon and promise you that number, because the data is showing me this is where the fish are. This is where the market is. But if you really want to try that, I'm willing to do it under the condition that you understand that I kind of showed you where I think the market is, and that after an agreed upon a time, I think it should probably be more like 2 weeks is what we typically recommend. We make an adjustment. Maybe we go to 699 after 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks we, come and meet the market. I'll be busting my butt to get feedback. I'll be showing you how much traction there is on the viewings. I'll be talking to the other agents who do show the property. I'll be happy to host an open house there, even at that price point, right? I'll be doing all that legwork, and my job will be to gather the feedback. If that feedback says that the property should be 625, I'm sure you'll be rational about meeting the market and churning a profit so you can move on to your next deal. So we can move on to your next deal together, right? In the meantime, I'll be hunting for another property for you if you want. And if you find a good deal for him, he's got to liquidate that, and you're kind of increasing his motivation. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll take a 50 grand. Maybe I'll break even on this one because that one actually has more meat on the bones for me, and prices came down, and I'll make money on that one. And you see how you're like, I just shifted it to like turn it into 2 or 3 opportunities. I'm future pacing more deals with this character. I'm accelerating the motivation to sell this property with rationality without undercutting him. I'm not trying to get him to throw it away, but it's never going to sell at 770.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, I'm doing that with credibility. Yeah, I'll take your listing at 770 to form the relationship, but I'm doing that with the expectation that where you're going to come down and meet the market where it's at over time. And then if you're really savvy, you're finding them a meaty deal that if you got that thing, he's going to be more inclined to sell.
Okay. Okay. Yes. That makes
Last
a
week
lot
I
of
went over,
sense.
this week I'm not going, Lauren. Anybody last minute questions? You got 60 seconds. Or ping me whenever. Namaste.
Thank you, Gil.
Bye.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Anytime.
Gil.